Let's zoom in now and talk about our role. What does it actually mean to be an IT contract manager? I like to think of the IT contract manager as a conductor. We don't play every instrument. We don't write every note. But we make sure the music comes together. In our world, the music is value from the contract, performance, compliance, risk control, innovation, and long-term outcomes. Our job is to coordinate the different players so that the contract actually delivers what the business needs. So instead of the person who reads the contract when there is a problem, we see ourselves as a coordinator, orchestrator, and a facilitator. When contract management works well, the contract becomes a strategic enabler. It supports innovation, collaboration with the supplier, and long-term value, not just short-term savings. And success is almost never one-sided. In a healthy contract, our success and the supplier's success are linked. A key part of our role, then, is making sure that tasks, responsibilities, and deliverables are clear for both parties. Now to a question many of us recognize. Where do we belong? If IT contract management sits in IT, we are very close to service performance, SLAs, changes, and operations. In legal, the focus leans towards risks, liabilities, and disputes. In finance, we're pulled into cost, budgeting, and value for money. And in procurement, we're strong on sourcing, negotiation, and supplier markets. Sometimes we sit in vendor management, a contract management office, or a business unit. The point is, where we sit impacts our mandate and our role. It shapes expectations and our day-to-day focus. There's no single right place in the organization, but whatever the setup is in your company, it's crucial to be conscious of it. Because where you belong will influence whether you're mainly seen as the guardian of compliance, the driver of value, the fixer of problems, or the strategic partner. To make our role concrete, let's look at a few contract management use cases. A supplier keeps missing an SLA. Who coordinates the response, checks the contract, and aligns IT, the business, and the supplier on an action plan? A major change request. Who challenges scope and price, coordinates approvals, and makes sure the change is properly documented and implemented? A renewal coming up. Who avoids sleepwalking into a bad extension and prepares a fact-based negotiation? Disputes, audits, benchmarking, exit, and transition. All of these are typical situations where an IT contract manager should be in the middle, connecting the dots. If you look at a formal job description in the standard, you will see a mix of competencies. We are expected to understand the commercial model of the contract. We should be able to read and interpret key clauses, especially around scope, pricing, service levels, changes, and remedies, but also the legal T's and C's. We need to manage governance structures, meetings, reporting, escalations. We need strong relationship skills to handle difficult conversations without blowing up the partnership. We need risk awareness, so we see early warning signs. And we need a solid financial understanding, not just is the invoice correct, but does this contract still deliver good value for money over its lifetime? It is a hybrid role. We're not just lawyers, not just finance, not just procurement, and not just IT. We are commercial integrators. We help build and maintain a contract management culture and solid routines. That's why there is a real career path here. You might start as a contract administrator focused on records, key dates, and support, then grow into a contract manager owning contracts, or a portfolio running governance and handling changes. Later, you could move into roles like senior contract manager, commercial manager, head of contract management, or vendor management. At those levels, you're shaping frameworks, policies, and strategies not just managing individual contracts. Now let's look at our interfaces. Only a fraction of people working with contracts actually have contract in their title. Yet a single contract lifecycle can involve dozens of touch points. Each of these touch points is a place where things can easily fall through the cracks. In fact, research shows that about 29% of the people in an organization work with contracts without actually having contract in their job title. And there can easily be 40 or more touch points in a single contract lifecycle. We interact with finance, service delivery managers, project managers, the business, legal, security, procurement, tax, and others. And of course, we work closely with the supplier, a key stakeholder in its own right. To manage all of this effectively, we need clarity on who does what. That's where a hierarchy comes in. A hierarchy defines who is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. For IT contract management, a hierarchy prevents assumptions and misunderstandings. It clarifies who leads on change control, disputes, renewals, governance meetings, financial tracking, and more. In this picture, you see an example of an IT contract management hierarchy based on a setup where we sit within the IT department. Along the left side, we have some typical contract management activities: governance, SLAs, changes, financial management, risks, renewals, disputes, security, and then the basics like documentation and key dates. Across the top, you see the key roles: the contract owner, the IT contract manager, service delivery, project management, plus legal, procurement, finance, security, and the supplier. The letters in the boxes show who is R, responsible, who drives the work, A, accountable, who owns the outcome, C, consulted, who gives input, and I, informed, who just needs to be kept in the loop. I don't want you to memorize every single box. What matters is the pattern. You'll notice that the IT contract manager is often responsible or accountable on governance, changes, renewals, and documentation. That reflects our role as the conductor. We'll keep the overall picture together. The contract owner is typically accountable for outcomes and value. Service delivery is responsible for day-to-day performance and SLAs. Legal steps in strongly on disputes and complex changes. Procurement has a key role around renewals and retendering. Finance supports on invoices and value for money. Security is accountable for cybersecurity and data protection obligations. And of course, the supplier is responsible for actually delivering the services. This is just a reference model. Your own organization may place these letters slightly different. The important thing is to make it explicit. When everyone can see all in one picture, who is R, who is A, who is C, and who is I, we move away from work falling through the cracks. And we give the IT contract manager a clear, visible mandate in the post-signing phase. In later modules, we'll zoom in on specific processes like change management, obligation management, issue and dispute management, and contract risk management. And we'll use this kind of hierarchy thinking in much more detail. For now, I want you to take this with you. As an IT contract manager, you are not just the person who reads the contract. You are the conductor of a complex orchestra. You coordinate, orchestrate, and facilitate. Your role is shaped by where you sit, the contracts you manage, and the stakeholders around you. When that role is clear, when expectations are aligned, contracts stop being static documents and start becoming tools for real sustainable business value. So that's our role mapped out, and we've given it a bit of structure with the hierarchy. We know who we are, where we sit, and how we connect to the rest of the organization. The next question is, What do we actually need to know to do this job well? And here, we can't avoid it. A big part of our effectiveness comes from understanding the laws and regulations that shapes our contracts. Not at the level of a lawyer, but enough to spot risks, ask the right questions, and steer the dialogue. So in the next section, we'll look at what we need to know about laws and regulations in practical contract manager language that really matters for our day-to-day decisions after the contract is signed.